My lead source tonight is a Republican from Texas who sits on the DOJ subcommittee, Congressman Brandon Gill. We won't hold you responsible for all of Congress's approval ratings, sir. It's great to have you here. But on the president's post tonight, having him weigh in, really the first time we've seen him respond, and he's blaming the Federalist Society for these judges. Congressman, isn't President Trump responsible for who he nominates?
Well, listen, I think that there's a huge problem in this country with rogue judges who are overstepping their authority, abusing their authority to usurp the president's power and to thwart the agenda that voters elected him to do, whether it's deporting illegal aliens or instituting tariffs. That's not democratic. And that's a huge problem. And I think that's what the president is speaking out against right here.
But do you consider a judge that he appointed a rogue judge?
Well, I think in this case, I don't agree with the ruling. I agree with the president. I think that this was an overstep of that court's authority. I think that the American people can see that we have a huge problem right now with large and persistent trade deficits. That's a national security issue. That is an issue that falls under President Trump's powers as commander-in-chief of the United States, and he is taking action to alleviate that problem. That's what he's doing here. I don't think that that ruling was proper, in particular given the context that just a few months ago, the Senate took up the question of whether the president had the power in the first place to institute these tariffs. They decided not to stop him. This is something that the president was elected to do, a power that he has, and I think these judges are overstepping their authority.
Some people might ask, how do you convince a court that it's an emergency if we've had a trade deficit since 1975?
Well, you can have a trade deficit since 1975 that is getting worse and worse and worse, and is also something that culminates into a problem. Listen, there's a major issue in this country whenever our manufacturing base is being shipped overseas, whenever jobs are being shipped overseas, whenever our entire industrial base has been outsourced, whenever we're reliant on hostile foreign nations for key pharmaceutical inputs, for energy, for all sorts of things that we need in our everyday life. These are the kinds of things that President Trump is going after with these tariffs. That, by any measure, is a national emergency.
Yeah.
It's a problem for our national security, and it's a problem for our economy.
One way to avoid a court challenge would be to have Congress handle this. And Congress has the power to regulate trade. Republicans have majorities in both houses. Why not just have Congress put these tariffs in place?
Well, listen, Congress can do that. I would support it if we could. But that process takes time. The president mentioned that in his post. It would take weeks for us to do that. The president is aggressively acting in our country's interest. Again, doing what the people want him to do as commander-in-chief. That is the purpose of the executive branch, to be able to act swiftly and decisively in our country's interests. So perhaps we'll take that up at some point. But right now, the president put these tariffs in place, and I think that they should stay there.
But on what is your responsibility? Is it regulating trade in the Constitution that it is Congress's responsibility, not the president's?
Congress has oversight over this. This is part of the president's authority. This was a national emergency that the president has talked about at length, that he talked about on the campaign trail, that he's talked about since then. He has the powers to implement these tariffs under his national authority, national emergency authority, and that's exactly what he did.
But Congress could also just implement them, right?
Certainly Congress could, and perhaps there's a role for it. But in this case, President Trump implemented this. These were lawful tariffs. We have been working on the One Big Beautiful Bill. We've got things that we have been focused on. He's been focused here. We'll see what the Supreme Court says here. I think the Supreme Court is going to side with the president.
But you'll wait for the Supreme Court to step in before you could take something that really, theoretically, you could do tomorrow as a member of Congress.
Well, we are working on getting this One Big Beautiful Bill signed into law. We're going to do it by July 4th. That's the deadline that the president would like to see. That's the deadline we have set in Congress. So we have got our work cut out for us as well. One other thing that we're going to be working on now that we got this out of the House is codifying the DOJ cuts and making those permanent, taking all of the work that Elon Musk and the president's team has done in identifying waste, fraud, and abuse, billions of dollars, waste, fraud, and abuse that we on the DOJ subcommittee have highlighted time and time again, that the American people are ready to see permanently gotten rid of. That's what we're focused on right now.
Are you going to codify every single thing that Elon Musk said he cut?
Well, the first thing that we're working on is a rescission bill that we're getting from the White House. We're told it's going to come Monday. That's going to claw back money that pays for propaganda outlets like NPR and PBS and defunds parts of USAID. I don't think that we ought to be spending taxpayer dollars on state-sponsored media in this country, and most Americans agree with me there. So that's the first place we're going to start, and then we'll see where we can go from there.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more. We're going to win so much. I love you. Thank you. Thank you.